Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry I couldn't upload this video earlier, but Mad City was down, so I was unable to record anything. But now you are going to see the review of whether or not you should get the M4, the AK, the MP5, or the SCAR. And let's go ahead and get right on into it. Starting off with how to get these weapons. For the M4, you can get it for 300 Robux, and for the SCAR, you can also get it for 300 Robux. And the MP5 and the AK are both free to use. So if you're a free-to-play player, you're going to have to go with one of these, but if you're a pay-to-win player, you could go with one of these. And we're going to get into which one of them is better in the video. We're going to start off with the damages of each of the guns. With M4, you're going to start with 10 damage to the body, and you can deal 15 damage to the head. That's a 1.5 times multiplier. And when we multiply the damage by the magazine, we can see that we're going to get 300 damage when aiming for the body, or up to 450 damage when aiming for the head. With the MP5, you can deal 8 damage to the body and 12 damage to the head. Once again, that's a 1.5 times headshot multiplier. And multiplying it by 30, we can deal a maximum of 240 damage or 360 when aiming for the head. With the AK and the SCAR, it's going to be slightly different than you think. With the AK, you deal 9 damage to the body and you deal 14 damage to the head. But actually, you don't deal 14 damage, you deal 13.5. And you can see when we shoot 2 shots, it does 27 damage, and that's 27 divided by 2 equals 13.5. So essentially you're dealing half a point less damage when aiming for the head, and that comes out to be a 1.5 multiplier still. 9 times 1.5 is going to be equal to 13.5. And so that kind of makes sense, and you can deal a maximum of 270 damage when aiming for the body, and 405 damage when aiming for the head. With the SCAR, it's the same. You deal 14 damage when aiming for the body, and you deal 18 damage when hitting the head, but actually it's not 18, it's going to be 17.5 damage. The reason this is because the headshot multiplier is 1.25 times, meaning that 14 times 1.25 is equal to 17.5. So you can see when we take 2 shots, it does 35 damage, and 35 divided by 2 is 17.5. So the main takeaway from this is that with the AK and the SCAR, when you hit the head, you're dealing half a point less damage than you actually think you are. But all the other guns are normal. If you hit the AK in the body or the SCAR in the body, it's going to be normal as well. It's just that the headshot isn't what it seems like. The next thing we're going to do is test the DPS of each of the guns. But there is one important thing that we should note. One of the most important things is that FPS actually does affect the speed at which your gun shoots. So this is with a high FPS. And we're going to test at a low FPS real quick. You can see that there's a clear difference in the rate at which we shoot. So for testing purposes, I'm just going to have our FPS set to 60 so that anyone without an FPS unlocker will have the same results as us. So with the M4, you can deal a maximum of 100 DPS when aiming for the body. With the SCAR, you can deal a maximum of 93.3 damage per second when hitting the body. With the AK, you can deal only 80 damage per second when hitting the body. And with the MP5, you can deal 96 damage per second when aiming for the body. And if you want to find the damage when you hit the head, then you can just multiply the DPS by the headshot multiplier we went over earlier to find out how much it was. One thing that I usually go over in weapon reviews, but I'm actually not going to go over today, is the time to kill. Now, the reason is because shotguns and the FAMAS, those really depended, and you couldn't really rely on the DPS in order to find out the time to kill. They just dealt high amounts of damage in big bursts. So with rifles, it's different because you're dealing little amounts of damage over a long period of time. So if you wanted to find out how long it would take to kill someone, you can just rely on the DPS. Say the M4 has a DPS of 100. If you wanted to find out how long it would take to kill someone with armor, then you would just do 100 times 2, and that would give you 200 damage per 2 seconds. So that'll tell you it takes 2 seconds to do 200 damage. Do whatever math you have to do to figure that out. It's not too much, so that's why I'm not going to go over it this time. Right now, I'm just going to be showing you the accuracy of each of the guns while inside of a car. This is the M4. You can see it's fairly decent. This is the MP5. The MP5 has good accuracy. This is the AK. That's okay. The SCAR. As you can clearly see, the SCAR is not good for aiming for little targets. It'll be better for aiming for other cars or stuff that isn't small. Right now we're going to be testing the effective range of the M4 to see if it can kill someone from around this distance from here to here, to see if you can kill someone with body armor. Here we go. And it seems like it can easily kill someone from this distance, when aiming for the body at least. If you aim for the head, then you're more likely to miss shots, so if you hit the body, then the bloom is going to go all around them, and it might even hit their head, so it's best to aim for their body. Now we're going to test it with the MP5. We can see that the MP5 was barely able to kill him, and if you remember, the M4 had a few bullets left over, so the MP5 is good. It has enough killing power to do that at medium to close range, but at long range your inaccuracy is going to make you miss more bullets, and then you won't be able to take someone out because the damage is too low and your ammo capacity isn't that great. The next gun we're going to try it on is the SCAR. Now it should be able to easily take care of this because of how much ammo and damage it has. So you can see that its recoil was actually decently manageable, except for the fact that it was pretty inaccurate as well. So you were able to hit many shots, which were eventually able to kill him. But the M4 was able to do a lot faster than the SCAR. Now we're going to be testing it with the AK. Now as you can see, even though the AK had a slow fire rate and a smaller recoil, it just still didn't do enough damage and have enough accuracy to hit him and kill him. One thing that I should note that the SCAR is especially good for is taking out boat engines. You can take out one of these engines with just one magazine. Now you can't do this with any other gun, and that's what makes the SCAR very good for taking out boats. For my final weapon review, I'm going to be going over each and every one of these guns and telling you the pros and cons of each of them. For the M4, you're going to be spending 300 Robux, the only con, and in exchange you're getting the best DPS rifle out of any one of them. It has 100 DPS, high accuracy, and depending on whether or not you aim for the head, you're going to get 300 or 450 damage per magazine. So overall, the best weapon. For the MP5, it's going to be for the free-to-play players, for my budget users. It has a highly competitive 96 damage, just 4 damage per second short of the M4's 100, but it also has high accuracy, and the con about this thing is that it has a low magazine capacity. That means you're going to have to reload a lot more often than M4 users, and to combat this, in chapter 1 they actually had it where the MP5 had 40 rounds in a magazine instead of 30 rounds. So you're going to be noticing that you're reloading a lot more often than other users, or sometimes not even killing someone in one magazine. So that's why the M4 is still slightly, or in a lot of ways, better than the MP5. But if you can aim well or get the drop on someone, the MP5 is going to be a great alternative. The SCAR has 93.3 damage per second, but its headshot multiplier is not impressive. Its headshot multiplier is 1.25 times, which is less than all the other rifles of 1.5 times. So that means in a duel, you're not going to be winning it. Even though you have high base damage and a good magazine capacity, you're not going to be winning duels because your accuracy is very low, number one, and number two, because your headshot multiplier isn't competitive enough. People are going to be aiming for your head, and they're going to be out DPSing you with it. And finally, we get to the AK. The AK has 80 DPS, and overall it's just doo-doo. The accuracy is meh. You can just get the MP5. So, in that case, that's all I have for the day, so I'll see you guys later.